Okay, hello. The ways in which cold calling uses, develops, and challenges conventions of similar real media products. Okay, so obviously while I was filming, I was looking to Outnumbered a lot for my inspiration while I was doing this. I've used quite a few similar shots and similar ideas from the TV soap, and I thought, oh, why not? It's kind of what I'm doing for the film anyway. So I looked at the camera work, and there's a lot of use of the reverse shot rule, which is where basically a character is talking to someone who's not in frame. And the reason they've done that in Outnumbered is basically because it's very dialogue heavy and it'd get really boring if you just had to listen to this guy saying the same bit of dialogue for a continued period of time, so it helps split up the piece. There is a lot of close-ups of important things, so the card in the case of Outnumbered, and in mine it's the whisk, the doorbell, pretty much because it stresses the fact that these are the important things that you need to be looking out for, and when a guy's selling you a whisk, you kind of want to see the whisk. I've also copied a shot, which I really liked, of the foot being jammed in the door, because it's like it's a sign of desperation, and it's like, please listen to me. So I've copied that shot because it's great. So in terms of camera work, it's very quick, and that obviously reflects in the editing as well. It's fast cutting. Neither of them use very lengthy shots at all, so I tried to emulate that with my product. I tried to make sure that I didn't use very lengthy shots. I tried to keep it snappy and quick and keep, the audience engaged, because when someone's talking for a long time, if the camera shot just stays on them, it gets so frustrating as a viewer. It's like, oh, I want to see more things, I want to see... Anyway, moving on. Music. In terms of sound, comedies don't really use music unless they are just like little motifs. Like when you're watching a comedy such as Family Guy on television, you might get little riffs in the middle of scenes like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. You get that, but whilst the dialogue's actually happening, there's no music at all in most of the comedies I've seen, so I copied that. There's no point in using music in the background. However, to challenge it, challenge, I put dramatic music right on the end because I thought it'd be hilarious. Lol. The reason I did that is because it's not actually a dramatic scene, it's just Joe got rejected. So I just thought it'd be funnier to have dramatic music on the end, and I did a focus group and they're like, yes, we love it, keep it! So I did. Anyway, carrying on. When you're watching a comedy, it's the lines that you're looking for. When people come out of comedy films and they're talking about with their friends, it's lines from the film they recite, like left, right and centre. When a lot of quotes you get thrown about are hangover quotes. I hear them about all the time, and I don't know why, but you just do. You just hear someone copying Alan. Alan's amazing.
Oh, how cute. What's his name?
Carlos. At the end of the day, if a comedy doesn't have a funny script, it's not going to work at all. So that obviously reflected in my time. I took the time to research how people script comedies, and I did what a lot of websites told me to do: come up with a basic idea, see if you think it's funny, and then start to build on characters and then the dialogues and stuff. So, characters. When I was making the characters, I again looked to comedies for inspiration, and there were several things that stuck out for me. The portrayal of characters is often quite structured, it's quite standardised when you see comedies, and that's not just in terms of uniform, that's the way they speak. For example, when a character's telling a story, often what you'll get is the character that's telling the funny story, telling the joke, telling whatever, they'll be talking to someone who's probably disinterested, not really paying attention at all. You see that in a lot of comedies. I see it in Friends a lot, you see it in Hangover especially, you see it in the other characters, they're just not paying attention at all, mainly to Alan. Oh, Alan the legend. Yeah, no one's actually listening to him, and that's what makes it funnier. That's why the audience want to watch, they just want to listen for that guy. That's what the audience is looking out for, and that's what makes comedies funny, that guy. When they are talking, they are the people you're listening to. Audiences learn to associate with characters like that, and with my film I wanted them to straight away associate with Jacob, who was selling the whisk. Oh, he's a funny guy, he's got hair and he's selling a whisk, what's not to like? And then you learn to love Joe as well. It's like, oh, the desperate caller. That's how people talk in comedies. Costume, quite easy research into that really. When I polled a load of people, and I asked if a cold caller would be dressed smartly or dressed casually, and 95% of them said, "Oh, he'll be dressed smartly." Or it was a he as well. People wanted he's as a cold caller. Just throwing that in there. Most people said it'll be a he. Whenever I see cold callers on the street, or hear of cold callers, or picture a cold caller, they're dressed smartly, they're in suits. They're always in suits, for some reason. So I decided to stick with the same. Obviously Joe's a young guy, so I didn't want him in a suit, so I stuck him in a cardigan, which was very snazzy, and a nice black tie. As well as that, in comedies, what I've found is there's often side stories, little flashbacks that happen. Scrubs is a good example. There's lots of flashbacks in it. Seth MacFarlane's a big fan of using flashbacks in his productions, like Family Guy, American Dad. And I developed it by using an advert shot in the past. It's not really a flashback, but I developed the idea of going back to the past to understand the full story, you know, selling a whisk. You've never seen our adverts? Let me show you the advert. Boom, show the advert. So the audience catches up as well with it. In general terms, challenging the conventions, these are just smaller points I picked up on. Usually, when I thought back, cold callers are usually the first people to talk. They knock on your door, you open it, and then they're straight in with a pitch. And I thought, rather than do that, let Gabby speak. And the reason I did that, it's all about character portrayal. It's not the stereotypical confident caller you've got. You've got Joe. He looks like a baby. I couldn't find anyone that looked really old, so I thought, okay, let's work with this. I'm gonna portray him as not a very confident guy because he's so young. So I'm gonna let Gabby talk first. When I originally shot it, he was just stood there for like 10 seconds with a blank face, and that's how I wanted to come across, as an awkward, shy guy. But I had to get rid of it in the final cut because it took too much time up. But anyway, I wanted to challenge the stereotypes just a little bit, just a tiny thing. And sound effects, I've already talked about it, but they're usually not used in real live action films because this is just cheesy. If you use a badoing sound effect, it's just, people don't really like it. So I used a few. The doorbell ringing was mainly, I didn't want to change the natural sound of the piece, and after some audience research they said that as well, don't put sound in it because it ruins it, apart from the last bit because it's hilarious obviously. And that's it. That's how Cold Caller uses, challenges and develops the conventions and forms of similar real media products. Kaboom!